The U.S.-China trade war has become one of the defining economic conflicts of the 21st century, reshaping global supply chains, straining diplomatic relations, and raising fundamental questions about the future of globalization. But as both nations impose tariffs, restrict investments, and decouple in critical industries, a pressing question emerges: who really wins this economic battle? The United States or China? Spoiler alert, in a globalized economy, the answer is rarely black and white. China's high stakes, a risk to growth and stability. At first glance, China seems to have more to lose in a prolonged trade war. The Chinese economy has thrived for decades on an export-driven model, with the U.S. as one of its largest markets. Tariffs imposed by Washington during the Trump administration and sustained under President Biden have targeted hundreds of billions in Chinese goods. This has direct consequences. 1. Exports decline. U.S. tariffs have made Chinese goods less competitive in American markets, prompting companies to look elsewhere, to Vietnam, Mexico, or back to domestic suppliers. 2. Foreign investment drops. As uncertainty grows, global firms are more cautious about investing in China. 2. The risk of getting caught in regulatory or political crossfire is too high. 3. Tech clampdown. Restrictions on Chinese access to American semiconductors and AI technologies have hampered China's ambition to become a global tech superpower. With slowed growth, rising youth unemployment, and an aging population, China must tread carefully. The government walks a tightrope, maintaining political control while keeping the economy stable and competitive. America's double-edged sword: protecting industry, hurting consumers. While the U.S. may appear stronger due to its diversified economy and global financial dominance, it doesn't walk away unscathed. Tariffs are essentially a tax on imports, and American consumers and businesses often pay the price. 1. Rising consumer costs. Tariffs on Chinese goods lead to higher prices on electronics, furniture, machinery, and even household items. 1. In some cases, U.S. manufacturers simply can't replace Chinese suppliers cost-effectively. 2. Farmer fallout. China's retaliatory tariffs hit U.S. agriculture hard, especially soybeans, pork, and dairy. 2. The federal government had to provide billions in subsidies to keep farmers afloat. 3. Supply chain shock. Many U.S. companies rely on Chinese manufacturing. 3. Decoupling means re-engineering supply chains, a costly and slow process that can weaken competitiveness in the short term. In the long term, the U.S. is trying to reshore industries, especially in semiconductors and green tech, but that effort will take years and heavy investment. The global economy, a collateral casualty. While the U.S. and China spar, the rest of the world watches and suffers. The International Monetary Fund has warned that a full economic decoupling could shrink global GDP by as much as 1.2%, a massive blow to developing nations and global growth. Countries caught in the middle, like Germany, South Korea, and Southeast Asian economies, are forced to pick sides or navigate an increasingly fragmented economic landscape. This weakens the rules-based trading system and erodes institutions like the WTO. Strategic wins versus economic losses. Both countries claim they are defending national interests. For the U.S., the trade war is about protecting intellectual property, jobs, and industrial independence. For China, it's about resisting economic coercion and achieving self-reliance. There have been some strategic wins. 1. The U.S. has successfully pressured China to open up some sectors and purchase more American goods, at least on paper. 2. China has accelerated its domestic tech development and regional trade partnerships, like the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. But these gains come at a steep economic cost, and there's little evidence either country is winning in the traditional sense. So, who really wins? In truth, no one wins a trade war, at least not in the short term. Both the U.S. and China have sustained economic damage, strained industries, and disrupted global markets. The victory, if there is one, may come from how each nation adapts. 1. Will the U.S. successfully rebuild domestic manufacturing and innovate ahead of its rivals? 2. Will China reduce its dependence on Western tech and pivot towards sustainable, internal growth? The real winners may not be countries at all, but companies and nations that can stay flexible, diversify partnerships, and avoid getting caught in the middle. Conclusion: a battle still unfolding. The U.S.-China trade war is far from over. In fact, it has evolved from a tariff skirmish into a strategic rivalry spanning technology, geopolitics, and ideology. The economic consequences are deep, but the long-term outcome depends on how wisely each side adapts to the new rules of global competition. Until then, the world continues to hold its breath, watching two giants play a high-stakes game with no clear finish line.